Mother, man.
Hey, this is Andrew from Harlott. You're listening to Murder Metal Mayhem.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem! All right, this is Pete Altieri, and I have the privilege of doing this interview with Andrew Hudson, guitarist and lead singer of Harlott, the thrash metal band from Australia. So awesome for you to take time out of the pandemic to speak to me here at Murder Metal Mayhem. How is it going, Andrew?
Real good, mate. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. We talked pre-show, pre-interview that it's hot there in Australia, and it's cold here in the Midwest where I am. So definitely on opposite ends of the globe, and
oh yeah,
really cool to be talking to you. Now you've got this brand new album. It's called Detritus. Is that how you pronounce that, or Detritus?
I say Detritus.
Detritus.
That's how I pronounce it in the song, at least.
Okay, well, I had to look that up. Now, I'm an author, and so I don't get stumped too much. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, is this a Carcass album where I got to look up half the words? So Detritus of the Final Age is the new album. However you pronounce it, it's friggin' amazing on Metal Blade. I love it. The production is fantastic. What was the process recording that? Because a lot of bands have been recording with the pandemic going on.
We actually we had this one pretty much all cut and finished before the pandemic really hit.
Oh, great!
This album was delayed by several months because of COVID. We should have been touring in Europe in May for some festivals, but obviously that went by the wayside. So we kind of had the album ready to come out around then. But as everything shut down. Uncertainty about how economies were going to cope and what countries were going to do, so we just we put it on the shelf for a little bit to just kind of observe the world for a while.
Oh yeah.
So we had this album finished off January this year. Like I was finishing off the vocals, and we went through the mixing and mastering process.
Awesome. So, did you record it there in Melbourne?
The really messy stuff. We were the studio. Near the beach, technically. Legion Studio Productions with a man called Julian Renzo. He's a guitarist from Jack the Stripper, if anyone's familiar with Australian metal.
Oh, yeah.
We hadn't worked with him before, but he's the guy's just got a really good ear. I know a lot of really kind of inspired production ideas. So there was a lot of really odd things that he was pushing for us to do, and I was quite resistant a lot of the time because I'm pretty stubborn. But I'm definitely glad I listened to him because he's put a lot of layers on a lot of things, and he's put some weird effects on some of the guitars at some points. It really helps just kind of fatten it out, and it definitely helps the album kind of sound a bit more diverse from start to finish, so it's not just kind of like the same tone.
Oh, I agree. Actually had to check to make sure I was listening to the same album because there were a couple things that I really liked the way you guys mix it up. I really loved the album you did before this, which is called Extinction. Definitely more of a speed. I mean, not that the new stuff is slow, but the new stuff, I like the way you guys mix it up, shows your diversity. I mean, there's no sense writing the same album over and over again, but a lot of metal fans are weird about that. They don't like it when the band changes it up. I wouldn't say this is that much of a departure from Extinction, but it definitely is a growth. I think you guys are showing more of what you can do.
Yeah, I think growth is, what we would go for. Because this is album 4. The first 3 albums are just very straight, fast thrash metal albums. There's there's a bit of groove in sections, but the second album in particular is just it's pretty blistering, and it's an exhausting album to tour.
I'm sure.
But yeah, this we're a thrash metal band, so album 4 was always going to be thrash metal. It's it's what we enjoy doing, and it's what I enjoy writing and playing. But there's a lot of things that I have always wanted to try but haven't really had the confidence to go for. And this album is a bit of an experiment in a few places, and I'm so stoked that we did it, because I think it's worked on. Everything that I tried to do has definitely come together the way I wanted it, and I'm pretty happy with the final result.
That's awesome, man. I was really surprised you guys did the Cannibal Corpse cover. Actually, was funny because I was in my car listening, and I heard that riff with that. I'm not a guitar player; I'm a bass player, but that like squeal that's in that song, and I was like, that sounds like that Cannibal Corpse song. But I'm listening to you singing, and I'm like, wait a second, and I had to actually look and pull over, like, that's a Cannibal Corpse song. Wow. That was really surprising, and you guys tore it the fuck up. I mean, that was awesome, man. What made you do that one?
It was just like, I'm generally not a big fan of covers of songs.
Right.
Like particularly heavy metal covers. I find that a lot of bands will do kind of less of an interpretation and more of an homage. Like they'll do their best to like emulate the band.
Right.
And I thought, if we're going to do a thrash metal cover, like, there's no point in doing a Metallica or a Megadeth or a Slayer or anything, because they've already done it perfectly.
Right.
I'm like, we're not going to do a better version of a thrash metal song,
right?
Than the original band. But I was like, what if we do, our style, our tuning, and our sound with something that is, at heart just a fast, aggressive song, but is quite removed from how we sound. And I remember being like, I don't know, 16, 17 when the album Kill came out. I remember putting it in, press play on the CD player, and just like that opening scream from George. It's just like brutal.
It is brutal.
I love that album. That was my introduction to the band. I'm a 90s, born and bred kid. So like my metal experience is 2 decades removed from a lot of other people's kind of journey. So that was like the first Cannibal Corpse song I ever heard was Time to Kill Is Now, and I've loved that song ever since. And it was really fun to tune that up to E flat. And, try and spit those words out.
Oh man, you crushed it, dude. You crushed it. I was digging it. I used to play in a band, and we opened for Cannibal Corpse on that tour. So it's funny you said you were 16. I feel ancient, but no, man, you did a great job. That's ballsy to do a Cannibal Corpse song, and I'm telling you, you guys did it up righteous. So horns high for that one. That was amazing, man.
It came together a lot more better than we were kind of expecting.
Yeah.
When you record a cover and you're like, well, we might use this, we might not, depending on the final product.
It was a great way to end the album, really. Now, is this one a concept album? I haven't dug into the lyrics yet, but I know that the last 3 were part of a trilogy that you did, but is the current one its own? It seems like it lends itself to that, but I wasn't sure.
It definitely follows on from the idea of the first 3, because the first 3 being origin, proliferation, and extinction, like the birth, life, and death cycle of a species.
Right.
They're not so much, the albums themselves aren't so much concept albums, like they don't tell a story in themselves, but thematically, all of the lyrics are about war and religion and death, disease, and the human condition.
Right.
All of those kind of things. And this album is no different. There's a lot of songs about just kind of the futility of existence and the way that humans kind of run this planet and how poor a job we do. So Detritus of the Final Age, the phrase itself would describe the waste left over after something has been destroyed. So like the rubble or the ruins of something.
Gotcha.
So to follow on from the extinction event, Detritus of the Final Age is everything that'll be left over. That's why the cover kind of depicts the Geneva building in Switzerland with
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you about the cover. The artwork is really good. Who did the cover?
It's a guy called Andrei Buzhikov. He does like all the Toxic Holocaust and Municipal Waste.
Okay.
He's worked with us for the last 2 albums. And he's real good at just kind of pulling gold out of my inane kind of descriptions of what I'm after. Because I never really know. I'm not like
I know. I'm the same way. I'm like, just draw something, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe give them some lyrics or something. But that's amazing.
I send him the song titles and I go, oh, if you could make a round thing in the middle, that'd be cool because that's what all albums have got.
Oh, sure. Okay. That makes sense.
All the albums have got a circle right in the middle. Origin is like the Mayan calendar. Proliferation is actually like just a ring drawn around a weird dude. Extinction is the earth getting crushed by the hand. And then this one's the Geneva Monument.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, if you put them all next to each other, you can tell that they're all the same band, like logo aside.
Yeah, and your logo is very unique too. That was one thing that jumped out. You know, you see metal logos, you've seen them all, you know, especially the death metal ones that look like a pile of sticks. But but your stuff, your logo is really unique, which obviously is good for, you know, making you stand out. So
it's definitely, I think, a logo that identifies us as the genre that we play.
Right.
Because I used to do that when I was, you know, younger. I used to go to record stores and, you know, there'd be a bargain bin and I would just pull CDs out and look at them, and you could pull an album out and look at the logo and go, "That's probably a thrash band."
Right.
You know, that's how I discovered Overkill. You look at that logo and you go, "It's probably a thrash band." Yeah. Sure.
That's funny.
Guillotine. I pulled Guillotine's album Blood Money out of a bin, and I was like, probably a thrash band. And I was not wrong.
No, you usually, if you go with that, that's a good way to look at it. Now, speaking about thrash metal from Australia, I know. In another interview I listened to of you, you talked about some of the other bands over there. There seems like there's quite a bit of it. I mean, what are some of the ones that maybe our listeners might want to check out if they dig some thrash metal?
Well, our thrash scene was kind of thriving in the early 2010s. We're like 5-10 years behind the curve of the rest of the world, and there was like a mid-2000s thrash revival in the rest of the world that, you know, it didn't hit us for a while.
Right.
So, you know, when you know, Harlott was starting up and kind of beginning to move around the country is when thrash metal was doing quite well here. So I got introduced to all of the, you know, every city's, you know, main thrash metal bands, and you know, if you're wanting to have a listen to Australian thrash, you know, our main surviving exports of that genre are Desecrator, Hidden Intent, Mason, and Malice's Wake.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
There's 4 bands that are doing great things. And Malice's Wake just released their 4th album the same day as us, and it is like they've been a thrash metal band from the start, but they've got that, you know, death metal sensitivity. Like they, you know, it's just a brutal listen. Like from start to finish, it is a heavy album, and Sean has got this insane growl that's like it's almost utterly toneless, yet he still carries like a melody through it.
Oh, that's cool.
Like there's like this really subtle kind of, you can tell when he's like pushing it high or when he's like bringing it low.
That's
it's
cool.
Insane.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. When I first heard you guys, I mean, it's obvious that it's a bit like a Bay Area influence, but on the new one, I hear some Creator. I saw a picture of you with a Creator shirt. Obviously, they're, you know, thrash gods. But the song Bring on the War on the new album really gave me a Creator feel, not in a way that I think you were copying by any stretch, just I could see the influence. But how influenced are you by a band like Creator, who's probably one of my favorite bands on the planet?
Enormously influenced by the way they write songs and the way they, you know, the way they approach the genre is incredible, because they write some insanely fast stuff and some incredibly hooky things, but their attention to the live setting of writing those big stomping songs is, you know, something that I've always loved. And when you go and see them live, there's always those big fist-pumpy bits and the big choruses. And you know, when you write a song like Bring on the War and you go, oh man, this has got a really cool, you know, Creator kind of sound to it. It's almost hard to not emulate Millet when you're in the studio.
I was going to say, you reminded me of Millet, but not in a way, like I said, it's still you, but it reminded me of that. My son is a huge Creator fan, I've been turning them on to you guys, and I'm like, dude, you got to listen to this song. Just listen to this one, because if you love Creator like I do, and I know he does, he'll love it. He's been like obsessed with the new album as I have. So now, since I'm here in the U.S., I got my thrash metal education in the 80s. It is amazing to see bands, from other parts of the world, doing thrash metal, like Onslaught, Crysis, of course, you guys. What is it about thrash that you think seems to kind of endure? Is it the fans that just love it that much, or what is it about thrash metal?
I think it's a very pure genre in a lot of ways, and there's a really clear cut template to what like thrash metal is. It's just like it's it's the speed of it, and it's the aggression, and it's obviously music has progressed beyond that point, from now, and there's much heavier stuff and there's much faster stuff, but like there's this like there's this window of beats per minute and kind of tone. Right. That, have that thrash metal kind of sound to it that, I find it incredibly addictive. I think like thrash metal as a live sound is brilliant, as a kind of something that I listen to. I find ridiculously soothing for some reason. There's something about the tone of a man shouting over just like a drum and bass onslaught that it just ticks all my boxes, and I assume I'm not alone in that. I'm sure.
No, I'm the same way. I'm pretty picky when it comes to metal, but man, thrash, it's just got everything I like about it. I like the vocal being understandable. I like it heavy and rough, but I want to be able to pick up most of it, and that's the one thing that takes me from death metal. Is I love it, but I have a hard time listening to it for, 10, 15, 20 minutes. I can listen to things, certain songs. I love Cannibal Corpse, but most of it is a little hard for me to sit there and listen to just nonstop. But thrash is just, man, it, like you said, it pushes the buttons. It's just amazing.
I think you may have like hit the button on the head there, because when it comes to death metal, I have like a saturation point. Like I definitely have a threshold of time before I have to like stop listening to it. Yeah. And I think thrash metal is like the angriest and most intense that music can get before it starts to grate against me. Yeah. So I can listen to thrash metal all day and have no issue with it. Whereas anything beyond that point, I definitely loses my interest.
Well, I love the shouting choruses, Exodus, bands like that have those cool, like you said, a live feel where you almost think like when these guys are writing these songs, they're thinking we're going to do this live. The fans are going to be screaming this out. It's just amazing, songs like Creeping Death with that Die by My Hand. I mean, that's just friggin', that's like puts, goosebumps on me when I think of it.
The important thing is like, thrash metal doesn't take itself too seriously, so you can have a lot of fun with those kind of things. Like you can have those melodic passages or the big crowd bits that that everyone's going to chant along with. Like you don't have to put on that we're the toughest guys in the world show all the time. So like there, and that's kind of, I think that's what makes it less fatiguing than some of the other genres, is the fact that you don't, it's not just an onslaught of brutality. Like, there's enough variation in the genre that you can, there's little breaks from it all.
Right. Now, you guys definitely show off your kind of sense of humor. Love the new video for the song Idle Minded. That was awesome. How did that all come about? Just a great video, man.
I think I've had that idea for a really long time as far as a film clip's concerned, and the beautiful thing is because it's not a story specific film clip. Like we were just waiting for the song that we were going to pick. Like that didn't the video itself doesn't make any sense to the lyrics, but I was like, we'll just have a bit of fun with it. We've only done one film clip before. I kind of, as I said before, my creativity stops at the music. So when it comes to putting the film clips together, I really have very little ideas. And one thing I don't like watching is 5 minutes of dudes playing a song. I don't get much out of that. So I was like, we better put something in there to make it interesting, and may as well make it funny while we're at it. So we just string together a couple of gags. and put it in between us playing the song, like, barely lit.
Yeah,
like a single floodlight behind us.
The chess thing, just really cool. It was very, very creative. I like that. Now,
tried to put as many obscure games in there as possible. I'm not sure how familiar you are with tabletop board games. When I was playing Magic the Gathering at one point.
Okay,
I'm a bit of a nerd.
That's funny. Now, how has it been on with Metal Blade for you guys? How long have you been with them? Is it just this album, or was it the other ones too?
This is our third release with them.
Oh, okay.
We got picked up in 2015. We released our second album, and we got the tour offer with Annihilator through Europe. It's like 6 weeks of shows.
Nice.
And Jeff Waters was picking them personally. So we were like, here's our music. Here's some footage of us playing live. And he was like, fuck yeah, you guys seem cool. We'll bring you along. And
awesome.
The label we were working with at the time was a little Italian record label called Punishment 18, which was like kind of just two dudes that, loved heavy metal, loved thrash metal, and were, helping bands like us, release their music around the world. It wasn't like here's a cut of your sales. They're like, look, we love what you're doing.
Right.
We're going to press 1,000 copies of your CDs. We're going to sell it at markets and stalls at festivals and stuff. And hopefully people are going to pick it up and get to listen to your music. So, when it came to album 2 and we'd booked the tour, they said, look, we probably can't help you on this, but we know someone who can. And like 2 days later, I got an email from Metal Blade saying, we've heard your stuff. We're interested. Would you like to see a record deal? And obviously, it was a 25-year-old me just like shaking over my keyboard going, holy shit.
I'm sure. Metal Blade is like the staple for metalheads.
Yeah, it was insane. It was an achievement that that it's going to be impossible to follow on from. And they got on board with us on the second album, and we went overseas on this tour, and it was amazing. Like just being able to be like, hey, we've sold out of CDs and we're going to be at this venue tomorrow for the next show. And you get there and there's just a box of, 200 CDs ready to go. Like,
right.
They've got the resources, they've got the support network, they've got incredible marketing teams. And most importantly, every single person that works there just loves heavy metal.
Right.
Like they might not all love thrash, and there's
oh, sure.
There's it. Yeah. But, they're really passionate about the genre. Like their full-time job is getting people to listen to great music, and they spend a lot of their time just going to the shows, chatting with the bands that they've got on their roster, and going to festivals and checking out new talent.
Awesome.
So they're incredible to work with, and they just get better and better every time we release an album. They get more and more invested, more and more excited about what we're doing. So.
That's fantastic.
Hopefully we do a couple more with them, and
that's
enjoy
awesome.
A prosperous career.
Yeah, for sure. Now with COVID obviously putting a hurt on bands with touring, has Harlott considered doing any online stuff like Obituary? Armored Saint did one recently I watched that was really cool. Were you guys talking about any of that?
Well, we only just kind of enjoyed levels of freedom that would allow us to even consider setting that up. We were on incredibly strict lockdowns, particularly in Melbourne. We had a bit of a second wave that got a little bit out of hand. So our state premier, which I suppose would be, I'm not sure who's in charge of states in.
Well, they call them governors here. They call them governors.
Yes. So ours is a premier. We've got a governor, but they don't do shit all, I don't think. So our premier was just like, he's like, all right, no one's leaving their home unless they're going to buy groceries or going to work.
Man.
Like, no social outings, no this, that, and the other. It's like all pubs, clubs, everything closed. There was a 5-kilometer radius, so 3.5 mile kind of ring around where you lived, and you weren't allowed to leave that area. And, Melbourne's, the main city of, Victoria. It's a 4.5 million population city, and it sprawls forever. And like, if I want to go and see my mate in the northern suburbs, it's an hour drive.
Oh, like, wow!
People live ages away. Like, you get really used to driving distances in Australia. So we were in a position where, as a band, we couldn't actually get together because none of us lived within range of each other.
Oh, wow.
So the only way we were going to be able to do a live stream is if we all filmed it individually, and instinctively that just kind of felt wrong.
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't be able to feed off each other in that live environment. Like, we do really well together in a room, but all just playing along to a click is going to sound gross.
Right.
And now that the state's kind of opened back up, we're actually in a position where we can play live shows again. Like, we've got some shows booked in the next couple of weeks because it was such a quick process of opening the state back up because we got our cases down to 0. Like, there's no active cases of COVID in the state of Victoria at the moment. And so, everything's just opening back up. Like, we got systems in place to make sure that, we're ready if anything happens.
Right.
But at the moment, there's like 0 risk.
That's amazing.
We've got gigs coming up.
Good for you.
We're probably not going to live stream, but maybe when we've got, I think we've got a show, quite a large venue next year, like early next year. We might just film that and give the rest of the world something to watch while we wait for our airports to even consider flying overseas.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. Now, what are the plans? I mean, that's awesome. You guys get some shows coming up, but any beyond that? I mean, it's kind of hard to plan with all this going on. Yeah. But are there any plans with what you guys have happening?
It's totally just not worth making plans at the moment, knowing how quickly it can all get plucked away from you. And we were supposed to be in Europe this year, and obviously they went, all right, it's not going to happen, but we'll postpone to next year. And now it's looking unlikely that even that's going to happen.
Wow.
So, I'm not sure if we'll get overseas for 2021 just because I don't,
it's so hard to know.
I think the world needs to clean up its act a little bit more before Australia's going to let us go over there. And I think I think everywhere's a whiles off that because the Northern Hemisphere is about to go through its winter, so it's about to go through a pretty bad flu season as it is.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we're going to be isolated down here for at least another 12 months.
Wow. Now, are there any podcasts that you like? I mean, I know now you're a big Murder Metal Mayhem fan, but are there any podcasts that you guys dig?
I've been meaning to get into podcasts. I'm like really behind the 8 ball with technology and stuff. I don't have a Spotify account.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm pretty bad with a lot of things. But I've got some really odd guilty pleasures when it comes to listening to podcasts. And there's anytime there's one of those like paranormal or ghost story ones, I get obsessed with those just because they're hilarious.
Oh, that's cool. We've done a couple of ghost hunts on our podcast, so
I do not I'm not a believer of anything like that. I do not.
I'm the same way. I find it interesting.
I know for a fact it's all bullshit, but I cannot help but get goosebumps when I'm hearing a ghost story.
That's
I still get freaked out by them, but I'm not I'm not convinced.
Right. Now I have to ask you, my wife knew we were doing this interview. She heard me listening to you and obviously picked up that you were not from the U.S., and she has got me watching the show Wentworth. So talk about guilty pleasures. I have to ask, is that a big deal in Australia since it's an Australian show?
That's that women's prison one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man. I think Australian TV's we've got obviously in Australian cinema here, we make movies, we make TV shows.
Right.
A lot of stuff gets filmed down here just for location, but every now and then there'll be actually an Australian production company that puts something together. And they get promoted up the wazoo by our media networks. People being like, "We made this at home. This is homegrown Aussie drama. You should all check it out." But I tend to steer clear from
that's funny.
Australian TV and movies because I find it often tries way too hard to be edgy.
Ah, that's funny. Yeah, I thought Wentworth was pretty good. She really likes it. And then I have to ask you another one, since you're from Australia. Of course, Men at Work made Vegemite a thing back in the 80s.
Yes.
And I've heard mixed reviews of this stuff. I need to ask you, man, what exactly...
Positive reviews from...
What is it?
Reviews from Australians, negative reviews from everywhere else. It's the yeast paste left over at the bottom of a brewing vat after making beer.
Oh, okay.
It is like a black yeast concentrate that's incredibly salty.
Okay.
And like, I'm not selling it to you. Like, this doesn't sound good, but almost every Australian loves it. I don't know why.
Really? What do they do? What do you put it on?
You just all you got to do is just, slice of bread, toast it.
Okay.
And you put a really thin spreading over the top of it.
Okay. Kind of like jelly or jam or something like that.
Because I would lather on something like that. Like something sweet like jam, I would just like cover it on there. Like same with peanut butter, I'm like, load that bad boy on.
Yeah.
But Vegemite, you need to be very sparing.
Less is so better. Yeah, it sounds like
I've put it on a pizza before. Like I've had a pizza base with just olive oil, garlic, a bit of Vegemite, and Parmesan cheese, and it is a salt overload.
Oh wow. Interesting. Yeah, I've always wondered what the deal was with that, so I figured I had to ask you.
It's definitely like a practical joke for the rest of the world, though. Like, I think other countries have got stuff like Marmite, and I think they've got similar things elsewhere, but ours is just brutal. Ours is, as Australians would say, it's not here to fuck spiders.
Now the Fosters, that's another one over here. They always talk about, it's Australian.
We do not drink it.
And I was going to say, I heard an interview with the band one time. They're like, fuck that. We don't drink that stuff.
Yeah. We send that overseas. We're not interested.
It's been a lot of fun talking with you, Andrew. Is there anything you wanted to add? Anything about Harlott? People can get a hold of you. I know on Facebook, and you guys have an indie merch page where people can order stuff. I've been trying to promote the metal bands, especially the underground stuff, to try to get people to, support what you guys are doing, buy your products, buy a T-shirt. I tried to buy a shirt, but you didn't have any big ones, so I'll have to wait till you get more. Man. But
I'll have to yell at the label for that.
Yeah, well, the big sizes go quick here in the U.S. I know that. So.
Yeah, we've got our own personal merch stores. Like, we've got a big cartel set up where we personally sell stuff. Like, I've got boxes of T-shirts in my garage, and we'll ship those around the world, but it depends on whether or not people are willing to pay for me to send a T-shirt from the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's expensive to send stuff, I know, but I will definitely, after we get done with this, I'll check that out. But anything else that you want to add to our listeners here at Murder Metal Mayhem?
I mean, obviously we support, we appreciate any support we can get, and people buying CDs and vinyls allows us the opportunity to go and do more and more crazy things. But, look, as long as people are listening to the music and enjoying it, then my job's done as far as I'm concerned. And, we make music for people to enjoy. And if that's happening, then fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview, Andrew, for Murder Metal Mayhem. Everyone go out there.
Not a problem, man. Thank you for calling.
Of course. Get the new album. It's on Metal Blade. It's killer. Good luck to you guys in Harlott. And don't be a stranger. If you guys have any news you want to put out, we'd love to pass it on. So
no worries, man. Thank you very much.
Hell yeah. Well, good to talk to you, my friend, and be safe out there.
Cheers, mate.
Mother, man.